The fog clings to Echo Valley like old secrets, wrapping itself around weathered fences and forgotten promises. In these hills, silence isn't peace, it's just the breath held between heartbeats. Gunfire cracks through the darkness. A farmhouse erupts in flames, orange light painting shadows across a face hardened by wars, fought in places, no map names. 15 years of carefully constructed normalcy reduced to ash in minutes. They say you can outrun your past, bury it deep enough that even the ghosts forget where to look. They're wrong. The past doesn't die. It waits, watches, learns patience. And when it finally finds you, when it threatens the only things worth protecting, a different kind of ghost awakens. The kind that walks through walls of gunfire. The kind that turns hunters into prey. In Echo Valley, no one disappears forever. And if you listen closely to the silence between the echoes, you'll hear the whisper, some men aren't built for peace, they're built for war. The morning fog clung to the slopes of Echo Valley like a shroud. It moved with purpose as if alive, creeping between the weathered fences, caressing the rusted mailboxes, and devouring the gravel road that wound through the heart of the community. In these early hours, the valley kept its secrets. At the edge of this world stood a farmhouse. Not grand, not picturesque, just sturdy, like its owner. Marcus Reynolds moved with the deliberate pace of a man who had learned that rushing solved nothing. His weathered hands, mapped with scars and calluses, worked methodically as he fed the chickens. 65 years had carved deep lines around his eyes that never truly rested even now. Storm, he called. The Belgian Malinois appeared from nowhere, moving with the silent efficiency that military training breeds into both man and animal. 10 years removed from war zones, Storm still carried himself like a soldier, like Marcus. Perimeter, Marcus said. One word. No embellishment needed. The dog disappeared into the tree line, performing the security sweep that had become morning ritual. Marcus watched, then turned his attention back to the barn. The morning routine never changed. Predictability offered a comfort that variance could not. Inside the barn, behind stacks of hay and farm equipment, Marcus knelt before a hidden trapdoor. His fingers found the recessed latch, triggering a silent mechanism. The door revealed a small room, a place for ghosts and memories. Weapons, communications equipment, medical supplies, contingency plans for contingency plans. Everything meticulously maintained, though untouched for years. Marcus didn't enter, just checked. Always checked. He closed the door and covered it again, erasing its existence from the visible world. A world where Marcus Reynolds was nothing more than a reclusive farmer, a man who spoke little and participated less in the community that surrounded him. The weight of his other life, his real life, pressed against his chest like a physical thing. Claire Sullivan wiped condensation from the windows of Echo Cafe. Morning rush would begin soon. In a town this small, rush meant perhaps a dozen customers, but each was essential to keeping the lights on. Emma, she called up the stairs. Bus in 15 minutes. The cafe occupied the ground floor of their modest two-story building. Home was the cramped apartment above. Not ideal, but it had been enough since Michael died. 5 years now. 5 years of running the cafe alone. 5 years of raising Emma alone. Emma appeared 12 years old and already carrying herself with a quiet dignity beyond her years. Dark hair pulled back in a practical ponytail. Eyes that missed nothing. I made your lunch, Claire said, sliding a paper bag across the counter. Thanks, Mom. Such a simple exchange. So much unspoken beneath it. Claire watched her daughter gather her backpack. Emma had been just 7 when Michael's heart gave out. Too young to lose a father. Too young to understand why they'd moved to Echo Valley afterward. Why Claire had chosen this particular place to rebuild their lives. Emma kissed her mother's cheek and headed for the door. Claire fought the urge to call her back, to keep her close. The fear never fully disappeared, that visceral dread of losing what little remained of her world. Remember, Claire said, straight home after school. Always am, Emma replied, the door closing behind her words. Claire turned back to her preparations. The espresso machine hissed as she tested it. Coffee grounds filled the air with promise. Simple tasks, achievable goals. This was her life now, deliberately small, deliberately ordinary. She'd chosen Echo Valley specifically for its remoteness, its forgettable nature. A place where questions weren't asked, where newcomers could disappear into the fabric of daily life. A place where Emma could grow up safe from the shadows that had consumed Michael. The shadows that Claire still feared might one day find them. Sheriff David Harper sat in his cruiser at the valley's entrance, finishing the last of his coffee. 27 years wearing the badge in Echo Valley. He'd seen changes, the mind-closing young people leaving the slow economic decline that afflicted so many rural communities. His radio crackled. Doris, his sole dispatcher and office manager. "David, you there?" "Go ahead, Doris." "Just got a call from Bill Henrik. Says there's another survey team on his property line. Third one this month." Harper sighed. "Tell him I'll swing by." He started the engine. These survey teams had been appearing with increasing frequency. Representatives from Horizon Investments, they claimed, looking to develop recreational properties. Good for the community, they said. Jobs, economic revival. Harper wasn't convinced. Something about their presence raised the hairs on the back of his neck, an instinct developed through decades of law enforcement. As he drove, his thoughts drifted to Marcus Reynolds. The man had arrived 15 years ago, purchased the old Peterson place, and proceeded to have as little interaction with the community as possible. Polite but distant, self-sufficient to a fault. Most locals assumed he was just another retiree looking for solitude. Harper knew better. He'd recognized Marcus immediately, though they hadn't spoken since high school. Marcus had been 2 years ahead of him, the quiet, intense kid who enlisted right after graduation. Harper had followed his classmate's career through occasional news reports, reading between the lines of heavily redacted military announcements. Marcus Reynolds wasn't just any soldier. The rumors around military circles suggested special operations, black missions, the kind of service that never made official records. Then suddenly Marcus had disappeared from even those shadows. Until he reappeared in Echo Valley, a man determined to be forgotten. Harper had never confronted him about their shared past, respected the man's clear desire for anonymity. But he'd kept an eye on the farm, noticing the subtle security measures, the strategic placement of outbuildings, the careful maintenance of sightlines, the dog that was clearly more than a pet. Marcus Reynolds was a man prepared for something. Harper just didn't know what. Ethan Ross adjusted his tie in the rearview mirror. The rental car smelled new leather and plastic and possibility. He smoothed his company polo emblazoned with the Horizon Investments logo and reviewed his notes one last time. 3 more properties to visit today. 3 more reluctant locals to charm. The script was simple: offer above market value, emphasize community benefits, hint at the inevitability of progress. Most would sell. They always did. His phone vibrated, a text message. No words, just a satellite image of Echo Valley with one property highlighted in red. Marcus Reynolds Farm. Ross studied the image. The notation in the corner made his pulse quicken. Ghost Walker, Target 0. He knew the code name. Everyone in his former line of work did. Ghost Walker, a legend in special operations. The man who disappeared after the Escobar operation went sideways. The operation that had cost Victor Delgado his brother and transformed him from cartel lieutenant to cartel leader. Ross had never expected this assignment to intersect with his military past. He'd assumed Delgado's interest in Echo Valley was purely about establishing a new trafficking route, remote, minimal law enforcement positioned perfectly between major distribution hubs. This changed everything. He sent a one-word reply: confirmed. Ross started the car. His role had just evolved from land acquisition specialist to advanced scout. The farm would need to be watched, patterns documented, weaknesses identified. Ghost Walker had made a critical mistake in hiding here. He'd made himself vulnerable by attaching to a place. Ross almost pitied the old soldier. Almost. Marcus felt the change in the air before he saw anything. 20 years in combat zones had honed his senses to detect the subtlest shifts in environment. Something was different in the valley today. Storm felt it too. The dog's ears pricked forward as they walked the northern boundary of the property. Marcus followed the animal's gaze but saw nothing unusual in the dense pine forest that marked his land's edge. Still, the feeling persisted. He continued his patrol rifle, slung casually over his shoulder like any rural landowner might carry. To untrained eyes, he appeared to be simply checking fences. His actual focus was on the disturbed ground near the tree line, the broken twigs at eye level, the unnatural spacing of footprints partially concealed in the underbrush. Someone had been here, recently, moving deliberately, attempting to hide their presence. Not locals. Locals would have approached directly, would have called out. This was surveillance. Marcus continued walking, giving no indication he'd noticed anything amiss. His mind calculated angles, sight lines, potential observation points. The high ground to the east offered the best vantage of his property. If he were conducting reconnaissance, that's where he would position. He kept his pace steady, completing his regular patrol route. Only when he returned to the barn did he allow his posture to change. Inside, secure from observation, he retrieved a satellite phone from its hiding place. He'd promised himself he would never use it, had hoped to die an old man anonymous and forgotten. But promises were luxury items in a world where the past rarely stayed buried. His fingers hovered over the keypad. 15 years of silence stretched between him and the number he now contemplated dialing. 15 years of carefully constructed normalcy. Marcus replaced the phone without calling. Not yet. He needed more information. Needed confirmation that this wasn't paranoia, the hyper-vigilance that had followed him from the battlefield. "One more day," he whispered to Storm. "We'll give it one more day." The dog cocked his head as if understanding the weight of the decision. Claire watched the stranger enter her cafe just after the lunch rush. Tailored casual wear that cost more than most locals earned in a month. City shoes not yet scuffed by country living. A smile that revealed perfect teeth and absolutely nothing about the man behind them. "Welcome to Echo Cafe," she said, professional warmth in her voice. "Thanks." He approached the counter, studying the chalkboard menu with exaggerated interest. "Quite a charming place you've got here. What can I get you?" "Just coffee black." He extended his hand. "Ethan Ross, Horizon Investments." Claire shook his hand briefly. "Claire Sullivan." "Sullivan?" He repeated the name as if testing it. "You must be fairly new here. I've been meeting with most of the Valley residents, but I don't recall your name on our property records." 5 years. She poured his coffee. "I rent the building from Martha Kendrick." "Ah." Disappointment flickered across his face. Non-property owners weren't useful to his agenda. "Well, perhaps you can help me anyway. I'm trying to locate a Mr. Reynolds. Marcus Reynolds. I understand he owns a farm on the north side of the valley." Claire's hand trembled slightly as she set the mug before him. The name sent a cold current through her veins. "I wouldn't know," she said. "I mind my business, run my cafe." Ross studied her face. "Of course. Small communities like this, I just assumed everyone would know each other. Not everyone wants to be known." The words emerged with more edge than she'd intended. Ross raised an eyebrow but didn't press further. He paid for his coffee and took a seat by the window, alternating between his phone and watching the street outside. Claire busied herself wiping down tables, keeping her back to him. Marcus Reynolds, the name she'd hoped never to hear spoken aloud in Echo Valley. The reason she'd chosen this place, yet feared it simultaneously. Michael had spoken of his father only in fragments, a military man deeply involved in classified operations. A father who had become increasingly remote as the demands of his work consumed him. Then the tragedy that had severed their relationship completely. The loss of Marcus's wife and younger son in what was officially termed a home invasion. Unofficially, Michael had believed it was retaliation for one of his father's operations. Michael had changed his surname, cut contacts, started a new life. Had told Claire about his father only after they were married, making her promise never to reach out to the man, never to expose their existence to the dangers that surrounded Marcus Reynolds. And now this stranger was asking about him, in her cafe, while Emma was at school, vulnerable and unprotected. When Ross finally left, Claire locked the bathroom door behind her and vomited until her stomach ached with emptiness. Sheriff Harper pulled up to the Reynolds farm just as dusk began to settle over the valley. No official business brought him here, just instinct and concern. Marcus emerged from the barn as Harper's cruiser crunched to a stop on the gravel driveway. Storm at his side, ever vigilant. "Sheriff," Marcus said with a nod. Neither friendly nor hostile, just acknowledgement. "Marcus." Harper stepped out of the vehicle. "Hope I'm not interrupting." "Something wrong, direct, no small talk." Harper had always appreciated that about the man. "Maybe. Got some outsiders taking an interest in Valley properties. Company called Horizon Investments. They've been particularly persistent about the north side of the valley. Your side. Marcus's expression didn't change, but Harper noticed the subtle shift in his posture. Weight moving slightly forward, hands relaxing at his sides. Combat readiness disguised as casual stance. Haven't been approached, Marcus said. They will. Man named Ross has been making the rounds. Thought you should know. Marcus studied Harper's face. Why the personal delivery sheriff? The moment hung between them. 15 years of pretending they were strangers, of professional courtesy maintained at a careful distance. Because we went to Echo Valley High together, Marcus. Because whatever you did after graduation, I'm guessing it didn't involve farming. And because these Horizon people, they don't feel right. Soner. Marcus was silent for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice had dropped to a near whisper. You remember the Whalen kid, the one who drowned in the lake senior year? Harper frowned at the apparent non sequitur. Tommy. Yeah, I remember. Terrible accident. No accident. Marcus's eyes held Harper's. I was there. Saw two men hold him under. They saw me too. I ran. Never told anyone. Harper felt cold despite the warm evening. Why are you telling me this now? Because regret follows silence. Marcus looked past Harper toward the valley below. If you see something wrong, say something. You just did. Thank you. Harper nodded slowly, understanding the message beneath the story. A confession of past failure, an acknowledgement of Harper's warning. Watch your back, Marcus. Always do. A ghost of a smile touched Marcus's lips. Been a long time since someone used my real name. Harper returned to his cruiser feeling unsettled. The conversation confirmed what he'd long suspected. Marcus Reynolds was not simply a reclusive farmer. And now something had disturbed his carefully constructed sanctuary. As he drove away, Harper glanced in his rearview mirror. Marcus stood motionless, watching him depart, Storm at his side. Two sentinels at the edge of the valley facing a threat only they could fully perceive. Emma Sullivan sat on the school steps waiting. The bus had already left, but she hadn't boarded. Today was Thursday Art Club Day, but Ms. Winters had canceled at the last minute. Rather than call her mother for a ride, Emma had decided to walk home. The valley was safe, everyone said so. She'd made it halfway when the black SUV slowed beside her. The window rolled down, revealing a man with a corporate smile. Emma Sullivan, right? I'm a friend of your mom's. She asked me to pick you up. She's dealing with a delivery problem at the cafe. Emma stopped walking, but maintained distance from the vehicle. Her mother had drilled certain rules into her head since she was small. Never get in a car with someone she hasn't explicitly told you about. Never give your name to strangers. Always trust your instincts. My mom would have texted me, she said, already backing away. The man's smile faltered. She tried. Phone issues. Look, it's going to rain soon. Just get in, and I'll explain on the way. Emma turned and ran. She heard the SUV door open behind her. Footsteps, fast, adult strides gaining on her child's pace. Her heart hammered against her ribs. The tree line was 30 yards away. If she could reach it, a hand grabbed her backpack strap. Emma screamed, the sound echoing across the empty valley. She twisted, remembering the self-defense move her mother had taught her. Stamp on the instep. Elbow to the solar plexus. Run! The man cursed as her elbow connected. His grip loosened. Emma bolted. The forest embraced her branches, whipping her face as she plunged deeper into the undergrowth. Behind her, the man shouted. Another voice responded. Two of them. Emma ran blindly, terror overriding direction. Uphill, always uphill. Away from the road, away from pursuit. Her lungs burned, her legs trembled. But still she ran, driven by primal fear, and her mother's constant warnings about the dangers that might someday find them. She didn't see the root that caught her foot. The ground rushed up to meet her, knocking the breath from her body. Pain lanced through her ankle as she tried to stand. Sprained, maybe broken. Voices in the distance, searching, getting closer. Emma dragged herself beneath a fallen log, trying to quiet her breathing. Tears streamed down her face as pain pulsed through her ankle. She pressed a fist against her mouth to stifle her sobs. The forest grew darker as clouds obscured the sun. Rain began to fall, gentle at first, then heavier. The sound might mask her presence, but it also concealed the movements of her pursuers. Time lost meaning as Emma huddled in her hiding place. Minutes or hours passed. The rain soaked through her clothes. Cold seeped into her bones. Movement to her left. A shadow detaching from the trees. Emma pressed herself deeper into the underbrush. Not the men from the SUV. A dog. A Belgian Malinois moving with purpose through the forest. It stopped head lifting as it caught her scent. Then it was running directly toward her hiding place. Emma closed her eyes. Nowhere to run. No escape. The dog reached her log and stood silently staring at her with intelligent eyes. No barking, no aggression, just watchful presence. Then a man appeared. Older, weathered face, moving through the woods with a silent efficiency that spoke of long practice. He carried a rifle casually like an extension of his arm. The dog looked at the man, then back at Emma. "It's okay," the man said, voice low and steady. "Storm found you. You're safe now." Emma remained frozen, uncertain whether to trust this new presence. "You're Claire Sullivan's daughter," he continued. "Emma, I heard you scream. The men who chased you are gone. For now." Ibram, he knelt, maintaining a respectful distance. "My name is Marcus. I have a farm nearby. You're hurt. Let me help you." Something in his eyes, a depth of understanding of having seen the worst humanity offered and survived it, convinced Emma. She extended her hand. Marcus helped her from the hiding place, examining her ankle with gentle but clinical precision. "Sprained, not broken. Can you walk if I support you?" Emma nodded, though tears sprang to her eyes when she tested her weight on the injured ankle. Without hesitation, Marcus lifted her, carrying her as if she weighed nothing. "My farm is closer than town. We'll call your mother from there." As they moved through the forest, Storm ranging ahead and behind them, checking their surroundings, Emma studied the man's face. There was something familiar in his features, something that resonated with memories of her father. "Have we met before?" she asked. Marcus's stride faltered almost imperceptibly. "No," he said, "but I've seen you and your mother in town. Small community." Emma sensed there was more, something unspoken beneath his words. But shock and pain overwhelmed her curiosity, and she fell silent as they continued their journey through the darkening woods. Claire's hands trembled as she locked the cafe door. Emma was late. 30 minutes now with no response to texts or calls. She'd already contacted the school, confirmed art club had been canceled, discovered her daughter hadn't boarded the bus. Panic clawed at her throat. This was what she'd feared since Michael's death. The past finding them, taking what remained of her world. She was reaching for her car keys when her phone rang. Unknown number. "Hello," her voice cracked with fear. "Mrs. Sullivan," a man's voice, calm, deliberate. "This is Marcus Reynolds. I have your daughter. She's safe." Claire's knees buckled. She caught herself against the counter. "What?" she began but couldn't continue. "Two men tried to abduct her on her way home from school. She escaped into the woods but injured her ankle. My dog found her. She's at my farm now." "I'll come immediately." Claire was already moving toward the door. "Mrs. Sullivan." His tone stopped her. "The men may still be watching your cafe. Use caution." The implication sent ice through her veins. Not random predators. Targeted pursuit. Why would anyone, she started, then caught herself. "I'll be careful." North end of the valley. Peterson's old place. Unmarked road after the bridge. The line went dead. Claire stood immobile, phone clutched in her hand. Marcus Reynolds. The name that had haunted their periphery for years. The shadow that had driven Michael to sever all family ties, to change his name, to start fresh far from his origins. And now Emma was with him, her father-in-law. A man who couldn't know that his son had lived long enough to marry, to father a child, to die of natural causes rather than violence. Claire grabbed her keys and a kitchen knife, sliding the latter into her purse. Trust had long ago become a luxury she couldn't afford. Marcus watched Emma sleep on his couch. Storm curled protectively at her feet. He'd wrapped her ankle, given her dry clothes, an old t-shirt that hung to her knees, and made hot chocolate. The simple domestic actions felt foreign to his hands, more accustomed to weapons than comfort. He'd recognized her immediately in the forest, had known exactly who she was despite never having spoken to her before today. The resemblance to his late wife was unmistakable. The same determined set of the jaw, the same questioning intelligence in the eyes. But how was that possible? Just coincidence? His contemplation was interrupted by the sound of tires on gravel. Claire Sullivan had arrived. Marcus opened the door before she could knock. Her face was pale, eyes wide with barely controlled panic. She pushed past him without a word, rushing to Emma's side. "Mom," Emma murmured sleepily as Claire gathered her into a fierce embrace. Marcus stood back, giving them space. Claire whispered reassurances to her daughter, hands moving over Emma's face and shoulders, as if confirming her physical presence, her wholeness. Finally, she looked up at Marcus. Fear and gratitude warred in her expression. "Thank you," she said, the words clearly difficult to extract, "for finding her, for helping her." Marcus nodded once. The men who pursued her weren't local, professional, coordinated. This wasn't random. Claire's arms tightened around Emma. "We should go. It's getting late." "She shouldn't walk on that ankle for at least a day." Marcus kept his voice neutral. "And if those men are watching your place going home, might not be safe." "We can't stay here." The statement came too quickly, too forcefully. Marcus studied her face. The fear he saw there wasn't just a mother's concern for her child. It was deeper, more specific. "Mrs. Sullivan," he said carefully, "I think you know more about this situation than you're saying. Those men targeted Emma specifically. They knew her name, and you don't seem surprised by that fact." Claire looked away, one hand absently stroking Emma's hair. When she spoke, her voice was barely audible. "My husband, Emma's father, he always said that danger followed his family, that there were people who might someday come looking." Your husband's name, a long silence. "Michael," she finally said. "Michael Sullivan." The name revealed nothing. Marcus waited, sensing there was more. Claire met his gaze directly. "Before that, it was Michael Reynolds. He was your son." The words hit Marcus like physical blows. His son. Dead for years now, Claire had said earlier on the phone. A heart condition, natural causes. But Michael had been alive all this time, had changed his name. Had a daughter, Marcus turned away, unwilling to let them see the emotion that threatened to overwhelm his carefully maintained control. His son, his surviving son, had lived a life entirely separate from him, had deliberately disappeared himself just as Marcus had done. "Why?" he asked, the single word encompassing a universe of questions. "After what happened to your wife and younger son," Claire hesitated, "Michael believed they were targeted because of your work. He blamed you, feared the same people might someday find him, so he vanished, started over. We met in college. He told me about his past only after we were married." Marcus absorbed this, the pain of it settling into the hollow space where grief already resided. His remaining son had hated him, had hidden his own child, Marcus's granddaughter, to protect her from him. "And now you're here, in Echo Valley." "Why?" Claire's eyes lowered. "After Michael died, I had nowhere else to go. He'd mentioned this place once, said you'd disappeared here, said it was remote, forgotten, a good place to hide. I never intended to approach you, never planned for you to know about Emma. But you've been here 5 years. Marcus's voice hardened. "Watching me from a distance, hiding my granddaughter from me." "Protecting her," Claire corrected, fire flashing in her eyes. "The same way Michael protected her, the same way you failed to protect your wife and younger son." The accusation landed like a knife between his ribs. Marcus flinched visibly. "And now," Claire continued, "it seems Michael was right to be afraid. They found us anyway." Marcus turned to the window, looking out at the darkness that had descended over the valley. His mind worked through the implications, the survey teams, the satellite image with his property marked. Ghost Walker, Target 0. His past had indeed found them all. "The men who tried to take Emma," he said, "they're not just after me. They recognized her, knew who she was. That means they know about Michael, about your connection to me." Claire paled further. "How is that possible? Michael was so careful." Marcus's jaw tightened. "Someone knew, someone with enough resources to track the scattered pieces of my former life. Someone patient enough to wait for the right moment." Toward Marcus turned back to face her, his decision made. The path ahead, clear though treacherous. "I'm going to find out. But first, you and Emma need to stay here tonight. It's defensible, secure. Tomorrow I'll make arrangements for a safe location somewhere far from here." "And then what?" Claire asked unconsciously, hugging Emma closer. Marcus's expression hardened, years falling away, as the soldier emerged fully from behind the farmer's facade. Then I become what they fear, what they remember. His voice dropped to a whisper. Ghost Walker. Emma stirred in her mother's arms, eyes opening to focus on Marcus. For a moment across the generational divide, grandfather and granddaughter regarded each other, strangers bound by blood, in a danger neither had invited. Outside, the wind picked up, carrying the first whispers of a storm, yet to break over Echo Valley. Dawn broke reluctantly over Echo Valley, thin shafts of light piercing the lingering mist. Marcus Reynolds stood on his porch, coffee cup cooling in his hand. He hadn't slept. Couldn't, with the weight of revelation pressing against his chest. Inside, Claire and Emma slept, his daughter-in-law and granddaughter. Family he hadn't known existed until yesterday. Family now in danger because of him. Storm sat alert at his feet, sensing the shift in his master's demeanor. The dog knew. Today was different. Today, Ghostwalker returned. Marcus set down his cup and reached for the satellite phone. The number came to his fingers without conscious thought muscle memory, preserved across 15 years of silence. 3 rings. Then a gruff voice answered. Operator. Echo Sierra 79er Delta. Marcus said the code phrases, awakening parts of himself long dormant. Ghostwalker requesting Blackwood. A pause, then. Line secure. Verification required. The devil's in Escobar's tomb, but God's not watching. Another pause, longer this time. Jesus Christ. The voice finally said, the professional detachment cracking. Marcus, is that really you? Need to speak with the Admiral Jackson. He's retired. We all are. The voice softened. We thought you were dead, man. After Escobar, Blackwood still has reach. Get him. Priority channel. Tell him Ghostwalker has a Target Zero situation. A sharp intake of breath. Target Zero. You sure we're 24 hours, this location? Marcus ended the call before Jackson could respond. The brevity wasn't rudeness, it was protocol. Minimize exposure, maximize security, the habits of a lifetime reasserting themselves with terrifying ease. He turned to find Claire standing in the doorway, arms crossed defensively across her chest. How long she'd been there, what she'd heard he couldn't tell. Emma's still sleeping, she said. Her ankle looks better this morning. Marcus nodded. There's coffee inside, out on a peace offering of sorts. Claire hesitated before moving past him into the kitchen. He followed, maintaining distance, respecting the wariness in her posture. Who did you just call? She asked her back to him as she poured coffee. Someone who can help. Someone who understands what we're facing. Claire turned, eyes searching his face. And what exactly are we facing, Mr. Reynolds? The formal address, the deliberate distance it created, wasn't lost on Marcus. Someone from my past, he said. Someone with resources, training, and a very specific grudge. Because of what happened in Colombia, the Escobar operation Michael mentioned. Marcus's expression tightened. Michael told you about that? Only fragments. Enough to know it went wrong. That people died who shouldn't have. That you disappeared afterward. A humorless smile touched Marcus's lips. Disappeared. Yes. Like father, like son. The barb landed. Claire flinched slightly before recovering her composure. Michael wasn't running from responsibility, she said. He was protecting his future, protecting Emma. By erasing me from her life, by denying me the knowledge that I had family left in this world. The accusation hung between them, raw and undeniable. Claire set down her cup with deliberate care. You weren't erased, she said quietly. You were a ghost story. The soldier who went too deep. The father who put mission before family until there was no family left. Michael's personal cautionary tale. Each word struck like physical blows. Marcus absorbed them without response. What defense could he offer? In Michael's eyes, the judgment had been accurate enough. And now, he finally asked, now we're here. Emma is in danger, and you're our best chance of keeping her safe. Claire's voice broke slightly. However I feel about the past doesn't matter. Protecting her is all that matters. Marcus nodded slowly. A mission parameters. Something tangible he could grasp amid the emotional wreckage. We have approximately 24 hours before my former colleagues arrive, he said. In that time, we need to secure this location and prepare for immediate threats. Former colleagues, military, among other things. Claire studied him, processing the implications. You're bringing more soldiers here to Echo Valley. Men I trust with my life, with your lives. Marcus met her gaze steadily. Men who owe me. Sheriff Harper's cruiser crunched to a stop outside the hardware store. Bill Madsen, the owner, was arranging a display of garden tools on the sidewalk, but his attention was focused across the street where three black SUVs were parked outside the diner. Morning, Bill, Harper said, following the man's gaze. Our investors still in town. Multiplying, Bill replied. Those vehicles showed up an hour ago. Men in suits, not the regular Horizon folks. Harper's instincts prickled. Any of them ask questions, talk to locals. Keeping to themselves so far, just watching, makes my skin crawl if I'm being honest. Harper nodded agreement. Think I'll introduce myself. Official welcome from local law enforcement. He crossed the street with deliberate, unhurried steps. As he approached the lead vehicle, the driver's window lowered halfway. Dark sunglasses, military short haircut, a complete absence of expression. Morning, Harper said pleasantly. Sheriff David Harper. Don't believe we've met. Security consultants for Horizon Investments, the man replied, not offering a name. Assessing the area for potential development. Quite a team for a rural property assessment. A tight smile. The company values thoroughness, Sheriff. Harper rested his hand casually on his belt near his sidearm. Not threatening, just present. Well, as the only law enforcement within 20 miles, I'd appreciate being informed of any thorough assessments you folks conduct. Keeps confusion to a minimum. The man nodded once, then raised the window, effectively ending the conversation. Harper walked back to his cruiser, unease settling deeper in his gut. Those weren't corporate security. The rigid posture, the situational awareness, the tacit communication between vehicles, these were military, or former military, men accustomed to coordinated operations. He reached for his radio. Doris, get me Marcus Reynolds' number, would you? Imam. Sonar Dakunan. Ethan Ross observed the sheriff's interaction with the security team from inside the diner, nursing a cooling coffee. The local lawman was sharper than expected, had sensed something off about their cover story. That could complicate things. His phone vibrated. Delgado. Progress. The cartel leader's voice was smooth-cultured, deceptively calm. Ghost Walker is confirmed at the location. We're establishing surveillance points now. Sheriff is becoming problematic. Deal with him if necessary, quietly. Ross hesitated. Sir, the operational parameters have expanded, Delgado interrupted. This isn't just about acquiring territory anymore, Mr. Ross. This is personal. Understood, but Ghost Walker isn't alone. Initial reports indicate a woman and child at the property. A long pause, then, interesting. Identify them. Determine their relationship to the target. Already working on it. The woman runs the local cafe, Claire Sullivan. Daughter appears to be around 12. Sullivan, Delgado tested the name. Cross-reference with Ghost Walker's known associates and family records. Yes, sir. And Ross, I want them alive. All of them. Ghost Walker will watch them die as I watch my brother die. Poetic? Yes. Ross swallowed hard. Yes, sir. He ended the call, a hollow feeling expanding in his chest. This was supposed to be a simple land acquisition job, use his military background and corporate cover to help Delgado establish a new trafficking route. Clean, profitable, minimal violence. But Ghost Walker's presence had transformed the mission into something darker, something that tugged at what remained of Ross's conscience. Too late to back out now. The men Delgado had sent weren't just security, they were enforcers, killers. And they would ensure Ross's compliance as surely as they would ensure Ghost Walker's suffering. Marcus led Claire and Emma to the barnstorm, trotting ahead to sweep the area. Inside, he moved aside stacked hay bales to reveal the hidden trapdoor. What is this place? Emma asked, curiosity temporarily overriding her fear. Insurance, Marcus replied, lifting the door. A set of narrow stairs descended into darkness. Marcus hit a switch, illuminating a space that made Claire gasp. The room was approximately 20 feet square, walls lined with weapons, tactical gear, communications equipment, and supplies. A small generator hummed in one corner. Maps covered a central table, the valley and surrounding regions marked with notations. Only Marcus would understand. "You've been planning for this," Claire said. Not a question. "I've been planning for everything." Marcus began selecting weapons, checking each with practiced efficiency. 15 years of anticipating every possible threat. "Is that how you've lived?" Claire's voice softened. "Always waiting for the past to find you." Marcus paused, a rifle partially disassembled in his hands. "It's how soldiers survive, Mrs. Sullivan. Preparation, vigilance, acceptance that peace is temporary." Emma approached a wall where tactical vests hung. Her fingers traced the body armor, her expression unreadable. "Did my dad know how to use these too?" she asked quietly. The question pierced Marcus with unexpected force. Michael, as a boy before the operations, consumed Marcus's life, teaching his son to fish, to track, the foundations of skills Marcus later honed for war. "Yes," he answered simply. He knew. Emma nodded as if confirming something to herself. "He taught me some things. How to move quietly in the woods. How to navigate by stars. Mom thought it was just camping skills." Claire and Marcus exchanged glances over Emma's head, Michael passing on what his father had taught him, even as he ran from the man himself. Marcus continued arming himself, selecting weapons and ammunition with methodical precision. "The men coming for us are professionals. They'll have numbers and resources, but they lack intimate knowledge of this terrain. That's our advantage." "Our advantage," Claire's voice rose slightly. "Emma and I aren't soldiers. We can't fight these people." "No," Marcus agreed, "but you can survive them. If you follow my instructions, exactly." He handed Claire a small backpack. "Emergency supplies, water purification tablets, energy bars, first aid, basic navigation tools. Keep it with you at all times." Next, he gave Emma a slim tactical vest, sized for a small adult but adjustable enough for her frame. "This stops bullets. Wear it under your clothes." Emma took the vest without hesitation, her eyes serious beyond her years. "Like armor. For nights." A ghost of a smile touched Marcus's lips. "Exactly like that." "This is insane," Claire muttered, but she took the backpack. "We should be calling the FBI, not preparing for war." "The right people are already coming," Marcus said. "People I trust. People who understand what we're facing." His satellite phone buzzed. Marcus checked the display, then answered. "Harper," he said, putting the call on speaker. "What do you see?" "3 black SUVs in town. Military types pretending to be corporate security, asking questions about you. About the Sullivan woman and her daughter, too." Claire's face paled. Marcus's jaw tightened. "They'll make their move soon," he said. "Tonight, probably, under cover of darkness." "I can call in state police," Harper offered. "Get some official presence here." "No, too many variables. Too many potential casualties." Marcus's mind raced through scenarios, calculating odds, assessing risks. "Keep your distance, David. This isn't your fight." "It's my valley," Harper replied, a steely note entering his voice. "My people." Marcus recognized the tone, the same one he'd heard in his own voice for decades. The protective instinct that drove good men to stand against impossible odds. "Understood," he said, "but maintain distance until you hear from me. These men won't hesitate to eliminate perceived threats. That a fancy way of saying they'll kill cops who get in their way." "Exactly." Harper was silent for a moment. "You ever going to tell me what this is really about, who you really are?" Marcus glanced at Claire and Emma, witnesses to his resurrection. "If we survive this, I'll buy you a beer and tell you everything." "Holding you to that," Harper paused. "Watch your 6 Ghost Walker." The line went dead. Claire stared at Marcus, new understanding dawning in her eyes. "Ghost Walker," she repeated. "That's what they called you. Your code name." Marcus didn't respond, simply continued his preparations, checking sight lines through small concealed windows in the underground room. "Who is coming to help us?" Claire pressed. "These colleagues of yours who are—" Marcus slung a rifle across his back, checked his sidearm, and moved toward the stairs. "The only family I had left," he said, "until yesterday." By mid-afternoon, the first of Marcus's reinforcements arrived. Bishop came on a motorcycle rolling silently down the gravel drive with the engine cut. 60 years old, lean as a whippet with silver hair cropped close to his skull and eyes that missed nothing. He dismounted with the fluid grace of a much younger man, unsurprised to find Marcus waiting for him. No words were exchanged initially. Just a firm handshake that evolved into a brief, fierce embrace, men who had faced death together too many times to maintain formality. Still living in the middle of nowhere, I see. Bishop finally said, his voice carrying the lilt of Louisiana bayou country. Still riding that death trap, I see. Marcus countered, nodding at the motorcycle. Bishop grinned. Fastest way to move. Smallest target. His expression sobered. Jackson briefed me. Target zero situation. Didn't think I'd hear those words again. Hoped we wouldn't. Bishop studied the farmhouse, the barn, the surrounding terrain. Professional assessment automatic after decades of operations. Defensible position. Good sight lines. Limited approach vectors. He nodded approval. You always did know how to pick your ground. It's not just me this time, Marcus said. I have family here. Bishop's eyebrows rose slightly, the only indication of his surprise. Family thought you buried that part of your life after... So did I. Marcus's jaw tightened. Things change. Before Bishop could respond, a dusty pickup truck appeared on the road, driving with purpose toward the farm. Marcus relaxed slightly, recognizing the approach pattern they'd established years ago. Mason and Torres, he said, right on schedule. The truck stopped beside Bishop's motorcycle. Two men emerged, one massive and barrel-chested, the other slim and wiry. Both moved with the distinctive economy of motion that marked them as operators. Mason, the larger man, approached first. His handshake nearly engulfed Marcus's palm. Commander, good to see you above ground. Torres, the smaller man, nodded greeting. We thought you'd retired for good, Jefe. What brings us back to the land of the living? Marcus gestured toward the house. Let's talk inside. Doc and Shepard should be here within the hour. We'll brief then. As the men moved toward the house, Claire appeared in the doorway. Her posture was rigid, arms crossed defensively across her chest. Beside her stood Emma, eyes wide with curiosity and apprehension. Marcus stopped, suddenly aware of the collision of his worlds, the violence of his past meeting the fragile present he'd discovered only yesterday. Mrs. Sullivan, he said formally, this is Bishop Mason and Torres, former colleagues. They're here to help. Bishop assessed Claire with a quick professional glance, then offered a respectful nod. Ma'am. Claire didn't respond immediately. Her eyes moved from man to man, taking in their bearing the subtle bulges beneath their civilian clothes that indicated concealed weapons, the watchful awareness that never left their eyes. You were all like him, she finally said. Soldiers, special forces. We were a team, Bishop replied. The best. And now you're here to fight. Not a question. An acknowledgement of the reality descending upon her peaceful valley. We're here to protect, Marcus corrected, to ensure that you and Emma remain safe while we resolve this threat. Claire's gaze locked with his. And afterward, when these men who are hunting you are gone, what then? The question hung between them, weighted with implications neither was prepared to address. Marcus had no answer that wouldn't sound like a hollow promise. It was Bishop who broke the silence. Ma'am, with respect, one battle at a time. Claire's expression softened slightly. She stepped aside, allowing them entrance. There's coffee, and I made sandwiches. Torres smiled, the expression transforming his severe features. The commander always did find the best safe houses. As they passed into the house, Bishop hung back, walking alongside Marcus. She's not just some civilian you're protecting, he observed quietly. There's history there. Marcus kept his voice low. She was Michael's wife. The girl is my granddaughter. Bishop missed a step, recovered instantly. Michael, but he died in the mom. No. He escaped, changed his name, started over. The pain of it still fresh, still raw. Died 5 years ago. Heart condition. Bishop absorbed this in silence. Finally. Does Blackwood know? No one knows, except you now. The others? Marcus shook his head. One step at a time. Focus on the threat first. Bishop nodded, understanding. Who's hunting you after all these years, more Delgado? The name alone was enough. Bishop's expression hardened. Columbia? The brother? Yes. You should have let me take the shot when we had the chance. Marcus didn't disagree. The operation in Colombia, the one that had gone catastrophically wrong, that had cost the lives of innocent family members, that had driven both Marcus and apparently Michael into hiding, had presented a clear opportunity to eliminate both Delgado brothers. Marcus had chosen capture over kill, a decision that haunted every day since. We do it right this time, Marcus said. No loose ends. By nightfall, the team was complete. Doc, their former medic, now a practicing emergency physician, arrived with a vehicle full of medical supplies. Shepard, their intelligence specialist, brought satellite imagery and electronic surveillance equipment. The reunion should have felt triumphant. 6 members of the legendary SEAL Team 6 together again after 15 years. But there was no celebration, no reminiscing about past missions. Only the grim determination of men preparing once more for battle. They gathered around the kitchen table where Marcus had spread maps of the valley. Emma had been sent to rest, though all of them doubted she was sleeping. Claire sat slightly apart, an observer to their war council. Delgado has approximately 30 men in the valley already, Shepard reported, tapping the map. Based in town with forward observation posts here, here, and here. Professional, discipline. Most likely former military or cartel enforcers. Weapons? Torres asked. Standard cartel arsenal, automatic rifles, handguns, possibly light explosives. Marcus traced potential approach routes to the farm. They'll come from multiple directions, coordinated assault under cover of darkness. They want us alive if possible. Alive? Mason frowned. That doesn't sound like cartel SOP. This isn't about business, it's personal. Marcus glanced at Claire. Delgado blames me for his brother's death. He wants revenge, wants me to suffer before I die. Silence fell over the group, the weight of history of choices made in distant jungles, pressing down upon the present. We're outnumbered 5-1, Bishop observed. Even with our experience, those aren't great odds. But we have advantages, Marcus countered. Intimate knowledge of the terrain, superior training, and they don't know about you. They're expecting 1 aging soldier, not 6 operators. 5 operators and a doctor, Doc corrected with a thin smile. Though I remember which end of the rifle goes boom. A subdued chuckle ran through the group, gallows humor, the kind that had sustained them through countless impossible missions. Marcus outlined his defensive strategy. Observation posts, tripwires, controlled choke points to funnel attackers into predetermined fields of fire, non-lethal options where possible wounded enemies required care, diverted resources, created complications. As the men discussed tactical details, Claire rose and moved to the window, staring out at the darkness that had enveloped the valley. Marcus noticed her absence from the table and joined her, maintaining a respectful distance. This is what Michael ran from, she said quietly. This world of violence and strategy, of men who speak so casually about killing. Marcus couldn't deny it. Yes, he was afraid he would become like you, that the darkness would consume him too. She turned to face him. He never told me everything about Colombia. What really happened there? Marcus hesitated. The full truth of the Escobar operation remained classified as details known only to those who had lived it, and many of them hadn't survived to tell the tale. We were sent to capture a high-value target, he said carefully. Intelligence failed us. We walked into a trap. Civilians died who shouldn't have died, including Delgado's brother. And your wife, your son. The pain, dulled by years but never truly absent, flared anew. Retaliation. After our team was extracted, they found my family, made it look like a home invasion. Claire's eyes softened with genuine compassion. Michael didn't know that part. He believed you had sacrificed them, that the mission always came first for you, even before family. The accusation struck deeper than any bullet, because in the darkest corners of his own mind, Marcus had wondered the same. Had he placed duty above protection? Had his actions invited the violence that claimed his loved ones? Perhaps he was right. Marcus said, the admission dragged from some wounded place he rarely acknowledged. Perhaps I... A sharp whistle from outside interrupted him. Bishop's signal. Movement detected. Marcus's demeanor shifted instantly, personal anguish replaced by cold tactical focus. They're coming, earlier than expected. He moved back to the table where the others were already reaching for weapons. Positions, communication protocol alpha. No unnecessary risks. As the men moved with practiced efficiency toward their assigned defensive positions, Claire caught Marcus's arm. "Promise me," she said, voice low and intense. "Promise me Emma comes through this alive, no matter what happens to the rest of us." Marcus held her gaze. In her eyes, he saw the same fierce, protective love his wife had shown for their sons, the love he had failed to honor. "I swear it," he said. "On everything I am or ever was, she will survive this night." Claire nodded once, then turned toward the room where Emma slept, to prepare her for whatever might come. Marcus watched her go, then squared his shoulders and moved toward the darkness outside. Ghostwalker emerging from 15 years of self-imposed exile to face the consequences of a past that refused to remain buried. Night wrapped Echo Valley in a suffocating darkness. No moon, no stars. Just the ghostly swirl of fog rising from the forest floor, obscuring boundaries between earth and air. Marcus crouched behind a fallen oak at the edge of his property, night vision goggles revealing what human sight could not. Storm lay motionless beside him, the dog's training overriding instinct, allowing him to remain perfectly still despite the approaching danger. Through his earpiece came Bishop's voice, low and controlled. "Contact. North perimeter. 3-man team moving in a standard sweep pattern." "Confirmed." Torres responded from his position to the east. "I count 2 more squads approaching from the access road. Moving in vehicles, lights off." Marcus processed this information silently. More attackers than anticipated and moving with military precision. This was no ordinary cartel assault. Delgado had hired professionals, former special forces perhaps, or private military contractors. "Hold positions," Marcus instructed. "Let them pass the outer defensive line. Bishop, non-lethal options only until they breach the second perimeter." "Copy that," Bishop replied, though his tone suggested disagreement with the restraint. Marcus understood his reluctance. Their training emphasized overwhelming force, decisive action. But this wasn't a war zone, it was Echo Valley. Sheriff Harper's jurisdiction, American soil. They couldn't leave 30 bodies scattered across the forest without consequences. More importantly, they needed prisoners. Needed information about Delgado's location, his broader plans. Needed someone alive who could testify that this was a targeted attack, not random violence. The first team passed within 20 yards of Marcus's position, moving cautiously through the underbrush. 3 men armed with assault rifles equipped with thermal scopes. Military-grade equipment, professional operators. Marcus remained motionless, letting them pass. Storm didn't even twitch. The attackers moved deeper into the property, unaware they'd already been marked, cataloged, and allowed to proceed directly into a trap. When they reached the clearing before the house, the night erupted. Flash-bang grenades, non-lethal but disorienting, detonated in precisely timed sequence. The attackers dropped to defensive positions, but they were already surrounded, caught in crossfire from positions they hadn't detected. "U.S. Special Forces," Doc's voice boomed through a bullhorn. "You are surrounded. Drop your weapons and surrender." The attackers hesitated, confused by the unexpected resistance in the military identification. This momentary uncertainty was all the advantage Marcus's team needed. Bishop, Mason, and Torres emerged from concealed positions, weapons trained on the disoriented men. The professional precision of their movements, the unmistakable bearing of elite operators, caused 2 of the attackers to immediately lower their weapons. The third raised his rifle, desperation overriding judgment. A single shot rang out, Marcus firing from his position. The bullet struck the man's shoulder, spinning him to the ground but leaving him alive. "Clear!" Bishop called, securing the surrendered weapons. Marcus didn't move. The initial contact had gone according to plan, but this was only the first wave. The vehicles Torres had spotted would contain the main assault force, and somewhere among them would be the man coordinating the attack, Delgado's Lieutenant Ethan Ross. "Shepard," Marcus said into his comm. "What's happening in town?" Shepard's voice crackled back. "Sheriff's got the main street locked down. Claimed there's a gas leak. Evacuated the buildings where Delgado's men were staging." A small victory. Harper had found a way to protect civilians without directly confronting the cartel forces. Doc, get the prisoners to the secondary location, Marcus instructed. Extract what information you can. Copy that, Doc responded. What about Claire and Emma? Marcus's chest tightened at the names. Still in the safe room, Torres has eyes on the approach. As if summoned by the mention, Torres's urgent voice filled the comm. Multiple vehicles approaching from the east, moving fast, no attempt at concealment. Marcus shifted position, sighting through the trees toward the access road. Headlights cut through the fog, 3 SUVs moving at high speed toward the farm. They know their forward team is compromised, he observed. Changing tactics. Direct assault. Shall I engage? Mason asked, position nearest to the approaching vehicles with the team's heavy weapons. Marcus hesitated. Escalating to that level of force would result in multiple casualties. Yet allowing the attackers to reach the house would endanger Claire and Emma. Disable the vehicles, he decided. Precision fire on engines and tires only. Mason acknowledged with a single click of his comm. Seconds later, the distinctive crack of his rifle shattered the night. The lead SUV swerved violently as its front tire exploded, careening into a ditch. The following vehicles slammed to a halt. Doors flew open. Men poured out, seeking cover, returning fire blindly into the darkness. I count 15, Bishop reported, armed with automatic weapons, moving to surround the house. Marcus's mind raced through options, calculating risks, weighing consequences. The situation was deteriorating rapidly. Too many attackers, too much firepower concentrated on the farmhouse. His team was effective, but outnumbered. They needed to change the engagement parameters. Fall back to secondary positions, he ordered. Draw them away from the house, make them think we're retreating. A strategic withdrawal create the illusion of weakness, entice the attackers to overextend themselves. An old tactic, but effective against opponents who lacked patience. As his team acknowledged and began their coordinated movement, Marcus turned to Storm. House, he whispered. Protect. The dog understood, slipping away through the underbrush toward the farmhouse. Marcus watched him go, then moved in the opposite direction, deeper into the forest, drawing the attackers away from Claire and Emma. In the safe room beneath the barn, Claire held Emma close, listening to the distant sounds of gunfire. The reinforced concrete walls muffled the chaos above, but couldn't eliminate it entirely. What's happening? Emma whispered, her face pressed against her mother's shoulder. Marcus and his friends are protecting us, Claire said, trying to keep her voice steady. We're safe down here. Emma pulled back slightly, her young face serious in the dim emergency lighting. They're soldiers, aren't they? Like in the stories Dad used to tell? Claire hesitated. Michael had occasionally shared heavily edited tales of his childhood stories he'd presented as fiction-adventure tales of brave warriors defending the innocent. Claire had always suspected they were sanitized versions of his father's military exploits, ways for Michael to process the complicated legacy he'd run from. Yes, she finally answered. They're soldiers. Very good ones. Emma nodded as if confirming something she'd already deduced. Is Marcus really my grandfather? The question caught Claire unprepared. She'd avoided explicit confirmation, uncertain how much Emma should know how much burden a 12-year-old should carry. Yes, she admitted. He is. Dad said his father died before I was born. Claire closed her eyes briefly. Your father thought it was safer for everyone if Marcus stayed in the past. Warone, because bad men were hunting him. Something like that. Emma absorbed this, her expression thoughtful beyond her years. But the bad men found us anyway. Before Claire could respond, the door at the top of the stairs flew open. Claire reached for the pistol Marcus had insisted she take, her hands shaking as she aimed it toward the light spilling down from above. A low growl preceded Storm's appearance. The dog descended the stairs with purpose, positioning himself between the women in the open door. Not a threat, but a guardian. Claire lowered the gun, relief flooding through her. It's okay, she told Emma. That's Storm. He's here to protect us. Emma extended her hand cautiously toward the dog. Storm sniffed her fingers, then pressed his head against her palm, acceptance recognition of his charge. He's like the wolves in Dad's stories, Emma whispered. The ones who guarded the forest people when darkness came. Claire felt a chill at the parallel. How much had Michael revealed in those bedtime tales? How much of his father's world had he passed to his daughter, disguised as fiction? The sound of footsteps on the stairs tensed them again. Storm remained calm, which meant the newcomer wasn't a threat. Torres appeared, his tactical gear covered in dirt and vegetation from the forest. A fresh cut marked his cheek, but his movements showed no hindrance. "Mrs. Sullivan," he said, "we need to move you. The house is targeted. We have a secondary location prepared." Claire stood, helping Emma to her feet. "Where's Marcus?" "Creating a diversion, drawing their attention away so we can extract you safely." Torres checked his watch. "We have approximately 3 minutes before they realize the deception." Claire gathered their emergency packs. "Emma, stay close to me. Do exactly as Mr. Torres says." Torres led them up the stairs and through the barn, moving with the fluid efficiency of a man accustomed to operating in hostile environments. At the barn's edge, he paused, scanning the surroundings. "When I say run, head directly for the tree line. Don't stop for anything. Storm will stay with you." Claire nodded, gripping Emma's hand tightly. "Now." They ran the cool night air, shocking after hours in the confined safe room. Storm flanked them, alert for threats. Behind them, Torres provided cover, his rifle raised. Just as they reached the tree line, the night erupted again. Gunfire, shouts. The farmhouse, Marcus's home for 15 years, burst into flames, illuminating the valley in ghastly orange light. "Keep moving," Torres urged, pushing them deeper into the forest. "Don't look back." But Emma did look back, her young face illuminated by the distant flames. In her eyes, Claire saw understanding dawning, the realization that childhood was ending, that the world contained greater darkness than she had ever been allowed to see. Marcus watched his home burn from his position on the ridge. The tactical part of his mind approved the fire would draw attention, create confusion, provide cover for Claire and Emma's extraction. The human part mourned the loss of 15 years of carefully constructed normality. "Bishop's status?" he asked into his comm. "Negative contact at Rally Point Charlie. Torres has the package. Moving to secondary location." Marcus exhaled slowly. Claire and Emma were away from immediate danger. Phase 1 complete. Mason. 2 prisoners secured. Rest are still hunting shadows in the East Woods. Shepard. Monitoring communications. They're confused, disorganized. Lost their command structure when we took out their forward team. Good. The confusion wouldn't last, but it bought precious time. "And Doc, working on our guests," Doc replied. "One's feeling talkative. Says Delgado isn't in the valley yet. Waiting at a private airfield 30 miles east. Planning to arrive once you're secured." Marcus processed this information. Delgado was cautious, sending his forces ahead while remaining safely distant. Smart. The kind of patience that had allowed him to hunt Ghostwalker for 15 years. "What about Ross?" Marcus asked. "Secondary target identified in the lead vehicle," Mason reported. "Wounded but mobile. Retreated with main force toward town." Ross was the key. Delgado's lieutenant. The man who had recognized Marcus, who had targeted Emma. Capturing him would provide leverage, intelligence, a path to ending this conflict before it claimed more innocent lives. "Change of plans," Marcus decided. "Primary objective now is capture of Ethan Ross. Bishop, rendezvous at my position. Mason, maintain perimeter at the secondary location. Shepard, I need satellite imagery of all roads leading from the valley." His team acknowledged, each man adjusting to the new parameters without question. The bond forged in countless operations still held absolute trust, unquestioning loyalty. As Marcus waited for Bishop, he studied the burning remains of his farm. The flames had consumed the house and were spreading to the nearby outbuildings. Years of careful preparation of accumulated supplies and contingency plans reduced to ash in minutes. Yet he felt strangely unburdened. The facade was gone. The pretense of being simply Marcus Reynolds' reclusive farmer had vanished with the flames. What remained was Ghostwalker, the operator, the hunter. Bishop materialized beside him with the silent efficiency that had made him the team's best scout. "Hell of a distraction," he commented, nodding toward the inferno below. "Necessary sacrifice," Marcus replied. Bishop studied his former commander's profile, illuminated by the distant flames. "This isn't just about Delgado, is it? This is about the girl, your granddaughter." Marcus didn't answer immediately. The mission parameters had indeed shifted. What had begun as self-preservation, as the instinctive response to threat, had evolved into something more fundamental. Family changes the equation, he finally said. Bishop nodded. Always does. He checked his weapon, a habitual gesture, before action. So what's the play? We take Ross, force him to lead us to Delgado. No, we make Ross take us to the airfield. We end this tonight. Risky. Delgado will have security. He'll also have overconfidence, Marcus countered. He thinks he's hunting me. He doesn't realize he's become the hunted. A familiar gleam appeared in Bishop's eyes, the anticipation of decisive action after too much patience. Just like old times. Not quite, Marcus said, his voice hardening. This time we make sure it's finished. Permanently. Emma sat on a fallen log inside the small hunting cabin, watching the adults converse in low, urgent tones. Mom stood apart from the soldier's arms wrapped around herself, as if cold though the night was warm. The man called Mason guarded the door, his massive frame blocking most of the entrance. Torres monitored communications equipment set up on a crude table. Storm rested his head on Emma's knee, accepting her distracted petting. The dog seemed to sense her need for comfort, for connection amid chaos. They won't tell me anything, she whispered to Storm. They think I can't handle the truth. The dog's eyes, intelligent and attentive, seemed to understand. Emma had grown up with her father's stories, tales of brave warriors fighting shadowy enemies, protecting those who couldn't protect themselves. She'd always sensed these weren't mere fiction. Dad had been teaching her something important, something she might someday need to know. Now that day had arrived and the adults still tried to shield her from reality. She'd heard the name Delgado mentioned, had seen how it affected the soldiers, how it made Mom's face go pale with fear. Whoever Delgado was, he was the villain in this story. The darkness her father had warned was always waiting at the edges of the world. Emma stroked Storm's ears, drawing comfort from his solid presence. My grandfather is coming back for us, isn't he? She whispered. Storm's ears pricked forward at the mention of his master. A soft whine escaped him, not distress but acknowledgement. I thought so, Emma murmured. The cabin door opened, admitting another of the soldiers, the one called Doc. He carried a medical bag and moved directly to Torres, examining the cut on his cheek. Prisoners secure, Torres asked while Doc cleaned the wound. Sedated and zip-tied, Doc confirmed. Sheriff Harper's meeting us at the rendezvous point in an hour. He'll take custody then. And Marcus, hunting. The simple word contained volumes. Emma understood immediately with the intuition of a child raised on warrior tales. Her grandfather wasn't hiding or running. He was taking the fight to the enemy. Her mother must have realized the same thing because she approached the men urgently. What do you mean, hunting? She demanded. Where is he? Doc finished bandaging Torres's cheek before answering. He and Bishop are tracking Ross back to town. They believe Ross will lead them to Delgado. That's suicide, Claire protested. You said yourself these men are professionals. There are too many of them. Doc's expression softened with compassion. Mrs. Sullivan, with all due respect, you don't know what Marcus is capable of. What any of us are capable of. He promised to protect Emma, Claire said, her voice breaking slightly. He can't do that if he's dead. The best protection is eliminating the threat completely, Torres said quietly. Marcus knows that better than anyone. Emma watched her mother struggle with this logic, the cold calculation of violence versus safety. The moral ambiguity that had driven her father away from his own father, that had led him to create a new identity, a new life separated from that world. He'll come back, Emma said, surprising everyone, including herself. He promised. All eyes turned to her, the adults suddenly reminded of her presence, of her stake in this unfolding drama. Claire moved to her daughter's side, drawing her close. Emma, honey, you don't understand what's happening. I do, Emma insisted. Dad told me in his stories about the warriors who fight the darkness, about how sometimes they have to go away to keep the people they love safe. Claire looked stricken. Those were just stories, Emma. No, they weren't. Emma's voice carried the absolute certainty of youth. They were about grandfather, about what he did. Dad wanted me to know in case. She couldn't finish the thought. In case this day came, in case the darkness found them, after all. Doc approached, kneeling to meet Emma at eye level. His face, lined with years and experience, held kindness alongside its hardness. "Your father was a brave man," he said. "Marcus told us about him, about you." "Will you tell me the truth?" Emma asked. "About what's happening, about who's trying to hurt us?" Doc glanced at Claire, seeking permission. After a moment's hesitation, she nodded slightly. "Many years ago," Doc began, "your grandfather led a mission to capture a very dangerous man. Things went wrong. People died who shouldn't have died, including the brother of a man named Victor Delgado. The bad man who's hunting us now," Emma supplied. "Yes, Delgado blamed your grandfather for his brother's death. Has hunted him ever since." Doc's expression grew solemn. "Now he's found him, found all of you, and your grandfather is making sure Delgado never threatens his family again." Emma absorbed this, connecting it to the fragments of stories her father had shared. The shadows at the edge of the forest. The price of standing against darkness. "Will he kill this Delgado person?" she asked directly. Doc hesitated. "He'll do what's necessary to protect you." Emma understood the evasion, the adult unwillingness to speak directly about death, about killing to a child. But Emma wasn't just any child. She was Michael Reynolds' daughter, Marcus Reynolds' granddaughter. The legacy of warriors ran in her blood. "It's okay," she said. "I understand." Sheriff Harper waited in his cruiser at the designated rendezvous point, an abandoned logging camp 5 miles from town. His dashboard clock read 2:17 a.m. The valley had been quiet for the past hour, the gunfire and explosions that had echoed across the hills now replaced by eerie silence. Movement in his rearview mirror caught his attention. A vehicle approaching without headlights, moving slowly along the rutted access road. Harper rested his hand on his sidearm, uncertain who to expect. The vehicle stopped 50 yards back. A figure emerged, Doc recognizable even in the dim moonlight. Harper relaxed slightly and stepped out of his cruiser. "Situation?" he asked as Doc approached. "Marcus has engaged the primary threat force in town. Bishop Torres and Mason are providing support. I've got 2 wounded prisoners requiring medical attention in secure holding." Harper nodded. "County has cells prepared. Medical examiner is standing by, legitimate physician discreet. And Claire Sullivan and her daughter. Safe house prepared at my hunting cabin. Remote. Defensible. Unknown to locals." Doc assessed Harper with newfound respect. "You've been preparing for something like this for a while, haven't you?" "Sheriff," a grim smile touched Harper's lips. 15 years watching Marcus Reynolds pretend to be a farmer. Figured the day would come when whatever he was running from caught up to him. Gura, you decided to help him when it did." "I decided to protect my valley," Harper corrected. "My people, Marcus included." Doc nodded, understanding. "The prisoners are in my vehicle. I'll transfer them to you, then rejoin Marcus." "Where exactly is he?" Harper asked. Doc's expression hardened. "Finishing what started 15 years ago in Colombia." Ethan Ross pressed a wadded cloth against his bleeding arm as he stumbled through the back door of the Echo Valley Inn. The operation had disintegrated into chaos, half his men dead, or captured, the rest scattered across the valley pursuing shadows and phantoms. Ghostwalker was supposed to be one aging ex-operator, isolated and vulnerable. Instead, Ross's forces had encountered a coordinated defense executed by multiple elite operators, men who moved through the forest like wraiths, striking without warning, vanishing before counterattacks could be mounted. He fumbled with his satellite phone, dreading the call he needed to make. Delgado would not accept failure, would not tolerate excuses. But the situation had changed dramatically, and the cartel leader needed to understand the new reality. The phone rang 3 times before Delgado answered. "I assume you're calling to tell me Ghostwalker is secured?" Delgado said, his cultured voice betraying no emotion. "Sir, we've encountered complications," Ross began. "Ghostwalker has support. Former teammates. 6 operators minimum, all displaying Tier 1 capabilities." Silence stretched for several agonizing seconds. "Are you telling me," Delgado finally said, "that a force of 30 men has been defeated by 6 aging soldiers? These aren't ordinary soldiers, sir. They're SEAL Team 6, the unit that— I know exactly who they are." Delgado interrupted, cold fury now evident. "They're the men who murdered my brother while he was surrendering. The men who then fabricated evidence to justify their actions." Ross swallowed hard. Sir, I recommend aborting the operation. Ghostwalker is more formidable than anticipated. We should withdraw, reassess. You will do nothing of the sort, Delgado's voice hardened. I am flying in as planned. Secure the airfield. Prepare the remaining men for my arrival. Sir, if Ghostwalker traces this communication, then you had better ensure he doesn't. Correct your failures, Mr. Ross, or join those who have already failed me. Permanently. The line went dead. Ross lowered the phone, a hollow feeling expanding in his chest. The mission had shifted from professional opportunity to potential suicide. Delgado was allowing personal vendetta to override tactical sense. As Ross moved toward the window to check the street outside, a floorboard creaked behind him. He spun, reaching for his sidearm, but too late. A powerful blow struck his gun hand, numbing it instantly. A second blow to his wounded arm dropped him to his knees, gasping in pain. Marcus Reynolds stood over him, his weathered face impassive. Behind him, Bishop materialized from the shadows, weapon trained on Ross's chest. "Hello, Ethan," Marcus said quietly. "I believe Victor Delgado is expecting you to meet him." Ross stared up at the legendary Ghostwalker, understanding dawning. They'd allowed him to make the call, had been tracking him all along, waiting for him to reveal Delgado's location. "He'll kill you," Ross managed through clenched teeth. "He has 20 men at the airfield, elite contractors. Shoot on sight orders." 20 men, Bishop mused. "Against the 6 of us. Seems almost unfair." "For them," Marcus finished, hauling Ross to his feet. "Now you're going to tell us exactly how to access that airfield. Every guard position, every security measure, every contingency plan." Ross hesitated, weighing his options. Delgado would kill him for betrayal. These men would kill him for noncompliance. Either way, his future had narrowed to a singularity of pain and death. "Unless I have information," he said carefully, "about the Escobar operation, about what really happened there." Marcus's expression didn't change, but something flickered in his eyes, a momentary uncertainty. "There was a leak," Ross continued. "Someone inside your team, someone who gave Escobar's men advance warning of your assault, someone who later helped Delgado find your family." "Amao," Bishop stepped forward aggressively. "He's stalling, playing mind games." But Marcus raised a hand, stopping him. "Who?" he demanded. Ross saw his opening, the sliver of doubt he could exploit to save himself. "I'll tell you everything. But first I want your guarantee that I walk away from this alive." Marcus studied him for a long moment, weighing the value of the information against the risk of allowing Ross to survive. "You help us take Delgado." He finally said, "You provide actionable intelligence about the leak, and you testify to all of it afterward. Then you walk away. One chance, one opportunity to choose the right side." Ross nodded slowly. Survival. Not ideal, but better than the alternatives. "The leak was Shepard," he said. "Your intelligence officer. He's been working with the CIA since before Columbia, helping them cover up operational failures, eliminate witnesses, maintain plausible deniability." Marcus's expression remained neutral, but Bishop cursed softly. "That's why Escobar was ready for you," Ross continued. "That's how Delgado found your family afterward. And that's how he found you here after 15 years of hiding. Shepard never stopped looking." Marcus absorbed this, his mind racing through implications, reevaluating 15 years of assumptions and preparations. "If you're lying," he said quietly, "I'll find you. No matter where you run, no matter how long it takes, I'll find you." Ross believed him. The absolute certainty in Marcus's voice, the implacable resolve in his eyes, these weren't threats. They were promises from a man who had spent a lifetime keeping the darkest kinds of promises. "I'm not lying," Ross said. "Shepard is at your safe house right now, with your team, with your family." The revelation struck Marcus like a physical blow. Shepard, his trusted teammate, now positioned at the heart of their defensive perimeter, with access to Claire and Emma. "Bishop," Marcus snapped, "verify." Bishop was already on his comm, attempting to contact Torres. Silence answered him. "Communications are down," he reported, tension evident in his voice. "No response from any team members." Marcus's expression hardened into something terrifying, the absolute focus of a predator preparing to protect what was his. "Change of plans," he said, his voice deadly calm. "Delgado waits. First, we deal with a traitor in our ranks. Ross watched as Ghostwalker transformed before his eyes the aging farmer, vanishing completely replaced by the legendary operator whose name had once made hardened killers tremble. In that moment, Ross almost pitied Shepard. Almost. The morning sun breaks over Echo Valley, painting gold across landscapes forever changed. Smoke still rises from the ashes of what was once a sanctuary. Evidence of violence gradually dissolves into the earth, but some marks remain indelible, written not on the land, but on those who survived it. A grandfather who buried his solitude to reclaim his family. A woman who faced her fears to protect her daughter. A child who discovered strength in a bloodline she never knew she carried. Even the valley itself, no longer innocent, now bearing witness to both darkness and light. They gather on the hillside, these survivors. Not whole, not unbroken, but standing. The ghosts of yesterday no longer hunt them, but neither do they fully retreat. Some shadows simply become part of who we are, not defining us, but reminding us of what we survived. In time, new structures will rise from the ruins. New routines will establish themselves. But Echo Valley will never be what it was before the night the past came calling. Perhaps that's the price of truth, losing the comfort of convenient lies. Perhaps it's the cost of family accepting both the strength and the burden of those bonds. And as the wind whispers through the trees carrying echoes of battles fought and won, one question lingers: is it the silence we fear, or the voices that might answer when we finally call into the darkness?